Hi, this is Joshua, writer and director of Star Trek Wars, and thank you so much for listening to my commentary on this film, which I spent years on at this point. It's really been a crazy experience. So here we have the classic Star Wars crawl, which was always part of my original idea. And they were designed by our visual effects artists Kevin Tran, Stephen Landau, and the Star Trek Wars logo was designed by Jake Schneider. But this Star Trek section was something we added in after we shot the film, in post. It was just a way to speed things up, and it ended up being a really nice compliment to put Star Wars and Star Trek in the title here. That whole sequence just tied together very nicely. These titles here, Skywalker Ranch, these were done in the style of J.J. Abrams' new Star Trek film titles. So this first idea with George Lucas playing with his toys was, of course, something that I had come up with for Steven Spielberg in the Return to Film School. And back then it was just a little two-dimensional sort of joke with this old guy playing with toys. But this one scene became the building block for a whole other adventure, and you could see a whole bunch of extra Easter eggs in the room. Spielberg poster on the left there, and the Holy Grail and whatnot. But this idea of this man kind of trapped by all this stuff, I really wanted the scene to have all this Star Wars stuff everywhere. Something that we really got a chance to do in this film, so I'm happy about that. Now, this shot is actually a real shot of Bad Robot Productions in Santa Monica. We drove up there, and it's sort of this building that's hidden in plain sight. And it was cool to think, oh, well, who's in there? And J.J. Abrams, to me, became the ambassador of Star Trek. So whenever you see him, he represents Star Trek. The music is Star Trek. And George Lucas being the representative of Star Wars. So these scenes sort of go back and forth in the representation of that. And we also try to fill up J.J. Abrams' office a little bit classier, but still with a lot of Star Trek stuff. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, I absolutely love this character because she is just an amazing person in real life, but also because she adds this needed sense of urgency, raises the stakes on J.J. Abrams. And for a while it was a little tricky to find the right balance, because I didn't want to make her a villain, I didn't want her to make her seem like the bad guy, and yet she needed to be able to raise the stakes and have a purpose in the script. So that was her main purpose in the writing. Now this, with all of these professional actors, all 10 of these professional actors, it was an amazing chance to really have a directing opportunity to shape a scene. So we got to play around with it, we rehearsed, and hearing all these professional actors playing off of each other, hearing how we could evolve the scene was really awesome. So that was just another experience I got from the film. The original idea for the scene was to have the J.J. Abrams crew sort of be members of the Enterprise. So there was kind of like a Spock guy, and there was a Scotty, but that was scrapped because there's this much better idea to split the room in half and do half of these guys as Star Wars and half of them in Star Trek. And it makes so much more sense because it's adding the pressure on JJ, developing this ongoing thought of division, and that's what you'll see in really good writing, in really good films. Every scene has to go towards the goal. It has to help shape the character, it has to be in alignment with the overall themes and ideas of the film. Everything has a purpose for being there. Really just trying to evoke the conflict and really trying to develop the character. So this scene actually ended up being pretty cool, and I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. I hope it is funny and entertaining to you. Another line and another clock wipe, all references to Star Wars. Now this beautiful house location was provided by our sponsor Patricia Randolph, and I was really grateful to shoot here because it is beautiful. Not only the dinner scene, but all of the Skywalker Ranch scenes, including the proposal, the wedding, the breakup, George's office, the hallway. You'll see it all here. It was already gorgeous looking, and when you find the right location, like that can make or break the believability of your film.
Good for him.
And of course, this is the music, which is a tribute to John Williams' Luke and Leia. And it really just sums up the heartbreak and loss that George Lucas has over Star Wars, and that was definitely something that I thought was critical for George Lucas to have this huge dilemma, and I wanted to bring the emotion of that to the viewer. But the scene was really meant to show reasons why George needs to move on from Star Wars, namely that his wife and his family need him to be present. But finding Mellody Hobson was the game changer, the absolute game changer. She was added in midway through the writing process. When I found out about Mellody Hobson and her relationship with George Lucas, it really just proved to me that this story needed to be about George letting go. And more on that later, because we have Comic-Con, and it was one of our greatest achievements of the entire film, with this huge set and all these people, which we shot at our California State University Long Beach Student Union ballrooms. And you can just see all the time and effort, the details that were spent to make sure that this looked like the real thing. And so many people have said, how did you get a chance to shoot at Comic-Con? And that makes me very happy, because we didn't. We lied, we cheated, and this is not, we had to recreate all of this.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Now, the original concept for this scene in the early drafts was a press conference, something much simpler than this. But at some point I realized, well, Comic-Con is the perfect place where the fans would come in contact with creators. And I really asked myself, do I want to do that to myself? Do I want to go through all the work to get everyone on board and get everyone to contribute to this scene? And the answer was yes, because it was worth it. But on top of that, I also have a 10-year history with Comic-Con. In fact, this summer, I'm going to my 10th Comic-Con, and I'm proud to be a member of that community. I just really wanted to recreate that atmosphere and do justice to such a cool and magnificent setting. It holds a special place in my heart. So this is just one big part of me right in the middle of this film. So super awesome. And you could hear some awesome sound design here as well, which we did in 5.1 to echo and really harness the power of this big room of the convention center. And of course our Edie Hovey as Maggie cameo, and I hope that eventually we'll get a chance to continue her story, going from Spielberg to Star Trek Wars and beyond.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Now, another turning point in the writing process was the Tri-Saber, the crossguard lightsaber, which was revealed during the writing process through the Star Wars The Force Awakens teaser, which came out in December of 2014. So once we figured that out, it just struck me that this needed to be in the script, because the Tri-Saber, as I like to call it, became the perfect metaphor for this conflict and this division between George Lucas and J.J. Abrams. It just represented the fear of change, the fear of letting go, and it was just perfect, and you know, setting it up here for the use later, as well as the Boba Fett helmet reveal, which was inspired by a real-life Comic-Con panel that I went to, where Johnny Galecki from The Big Bang Theory disguised himself in a Star Wars costume, took his helmet off. So you just never know what the various experiences can do for you, and that end up in your movie, because they will. So when you make your movie, you just draw from your own experiences, draw from those types of ideas, because sometimes those can be the most surprising. And then don't be afraid to throw them away and find something even better than that. So this montage here was shot all over our Cal State Long Beach campus. And that was really fun. That was just an exciting day. And there's A113, our homage to Pixar. on the television screen, along with the Film Visionary logo. And the battle music here is inspired by Star Wars battle music, which escalates. This scene was intended to strip George Lucas of everything. Another shot that I came up with early on, he just slowly going down further and further down the rabbit hole. So later on you see his office, which is completely empty. And finally we have this shot with the psychiatrist, played by Dr. David Liu, our official sponsor and executive producer. And this whole scene was just one of the earliest things written. It remained in the script because it was just funny, this concept with George and JJ talking to the same guy. I was at a convention and I saw they were selling tribbles, and I said, well, that'd be funny if J.J. Abrams was petting one, so I bought it, and that's what you see in the movie. There is the clock in J.J. Abrams' office that reads 12/18, which is the date of The Force Awakens release on December 18th, 2015. And JJ also has that picture of Lost behind him, so just little Easter eggs here and there. Now, this parallel between George and JJ, I don't even remember how this got into the script, but I just knew that there was needed to be this climactic moment before the battle. Very, very emotional, where they're reaching their breaking point. But it wasn't until the second to last draft, this was one of the final changes in the script, where I had to include George Lucas and Melody Hobson breaking up, even though that is something I made up, as well as J.J. Abrams losing his job. In order to really raise the stakes, I had to throw them under the bus. I'm so bad at that, but I'm glad we did, because it just ups the ante and it gives them more reason to go into that big war coming up. And you can't be afraid to go there. You can't be afraid to go to places that you didn't originally imagine. And of course you have the setup for Gene Roddenberry, as well as the toy X-Wing. And this thing here coming up, this is a classic Khan reference. Wrath of Khan, classic Star Trek there. And you'll see those lines throughout the movie. Some are obvious, some are not. But I'm just glad they fit in there seamlessly. So finally we have here the battle sequence, which is one of the first scenes that was written, and in fact, most of the dialogue stayed intact throughout. For a long time, I didn't know where to shoot this. We considered a parking lot. Of course, that would have been disastrous. But luckily, I contacted Thunder Studios through a connection, and ultimately, they provided us with a 10,000 square foot soundstage, which that deal was sealed just days before we shot. It was nerve-wracking finding this location, but also one of the most memorable moments of this film was this opportunity to shoot in a professional environment. We got to paint the floor black and put all these black curtains up, and it's amazing that this even looks so close to what I originally envisioned, which was this black backdrop, very kind of metaphysical. It's not really taking place, and yet it is. And by the time I got, 80 people there, it was just an amazing time. I will never forget that experience. Now, this whole battle was choreographed by our fight and stunt choreographers, Alex Romero and Wayne J. Liu. And there's our choreographer, Alex Romero, falling down as Darth Maul. Both really upped their game and pulled out all the stops to make this battle their own. And over 15 visual effects artists worked on all these special effects. There's one of them, Vincent Glazer, and the Wilhelm screen. And of course, all 5 of my producers and myself and my costume designer right there in that one shot. How to get everybody into one shot. And so those are some of the main people that worked on the film right there. This whole sequence was super complicated, with over 100 VFX shots in total throughout the entire film, all led by our visual effects supervisor, Wayne J. Liu. Each lightsaber had to be tracked by hand. Each phaser blast had to be done one at a time, and it really just represents this amazing collaboration. This was definitely one of the newest things I'd ever experienced, was all the stages of making sure that this battle looked amazing, let alone being able to export it all at 4K. When you watch this in high resolution on your 4K TV someday, you'll see all the details here. The crossguard lightsaber, it was actually 3 lightsabers in one. In order to animate it, you actually have to do 3. And we also, if you notice, we added some extra electricity in the graphics as well as in the sound design. And it was really interesting because the movie hadn't come out, and we were basing all of our knowledge of the tri-saber on that 2-second clip from the teaser. So it was really fun to try to predict this. And hopefully that comes across. Hopefully that comes across as this menacing weapon where J.J. Abrams losing it. And this is, again, the perfect metaphor for his anger and their hate and their difference. And if anything else, this battle represents the culmination of so many different talents. And that's what you want. You want to surround yourself with the best people. Honestly, you can't do it all yourself, and so many different people have so many talents and so many ideas, and you just keep saying yes to those because you do what's best for the film. You do what's best for the story. And Gene Roddenberry, my super secret ace in the hole, and this was the thing that I knew in my heart would push things over the edge. The thing that made me decide to ultimately take this journey for over 2 years to make this happen. He represents Yoda, and especially Leonard Nimoy, which is why he's wearing the blue Star Trek shirt. We actually met his son, Rod Roddenberry, last year at Comic-Con, who read the portion of the script with his dad in it, and he said that we did justice to his father, and it really touched me. And you'll even hear we have this real quote from Gene Roddenberry here, which is that humanity will reach maturity when we begin to appreciate our differences and ideas in life. And that's a real quote, and I think this film, I hope, sort of creates this beautiful picture around the soul of Star Trek and even of Star Wars, where we need to come together and be unified and not be divided. And especially today, I hope if you take away anything from this film, it's that you love one another, you put your differences aside, and you just believe in one another. And you know, having this moment where Gene Roddenberry goes into the sky was really cool, because this golden light here, even I didn't realize how cool the visual effect was going to be, but it really just lights up the entire room, lights up the entire theater with gold light, and really just provides that sort of almost spiritual sense. And it's just, I hope that gets you. I really do. That was my goal, was to get you emotionally at this point. When Leonard Nimoy passed, I had heard that Star Wars and Star Trek fans were raising their hands, raising the Vulcan peace sign in honor of his passing. So that's where that came from, and it just, again, is a perfect metaphor for what this film was about. And that was the last thing we shot, was Gene Roddenberry. Now, this transition from our George Lucas to the photo of the real George Lucas was something we discovered in editing. So that's so cool. I'm really proud of that moment. And the whole scene, in fact, was cut slower. But one of the big changes in editing was that we needed to speed this whole thing up. Now, this scene, the proposal and the wedding scene, were both scenes that were added in when Mellody Hobson joined the script. But more importantly, they replaced scenes. Because in early drafts of the script, we actually had scenes where George Lucas and J.J. Abrams were on set of Star Wars together. They were collaborating. They had actually joined forces. But this was the much more authentic and true ending, in which George Lucas actually goes a different direction. And it's actually the harder ending. So when you're thinking about characters and thinking about story arc, really try to challenge yourself to go to the next level and find a harder ending. Find an ending that is not as obvious. And I'm just glad I had a chance to kind of get into it as much as I could. As well as their kiss, which is a tribute to the Empire Strikes Back posters, Gone with the Wind, as well as that famous Star Trek kiss between Captain Kirk and Uhura. And Kyle Klebe, our director of photography, was really proud of this shot, and he just wanted to show off our school's Panavision film camera. So these titles were done exactly like the ones in the Force Awakens trailers. Just another little nod here. The red carpet scene. Now, I just had to throw this into the film because the parallel, whether it's the sentiment or the physical location of a red carpet to Star Wars A New Hope at the end in the throne room when Luke and Han are receiving medals from Leia. It was just too perfect of a parallel, and you'll see all this shot for shot timing and matching, so I really had to do this scene because it just worked out too well in my mind. And there's BB-8, and there's me operating it from behind a black solid there. We had to make our own because there weren't any toys out. And we have our good friend Robert W. Lauer, aka Steven Spielberg, in the background. And finally, the ghost of Gene Roddenberry, which we used a green screen to do, who is a reference, of course, to Return of the Jedi. Just another cool little fusion of ideas. And the completion of the X-Wing story, just representing the passing off of the legacy and letting go. And it was just a simple idea, hopefully not too on the nose, but just a simple way of showing the camaraderie. And I wanted to end the film with a big reunion, and that's what you see here. You see George Lucas, J.J. Abrams, all the fans, Star Wars, Star Trek, and that's what our whole film is about and what I hope life is about. And we end with that visual effects shot of the Star Wars 7 banner. And the movie ends on this animation by animator Jesse Yang. And I knew I wanted to combine Star Wars and Star Trek into battle because I knew, people are going to expect to see a Star Wars and Star Trek battle if you call it Star Trek Wars. But the difference here was that you see Star Wars and Star Trek teaming up together to fight the villains. So that was the difference in our little sequence here, was that you see Star Wars and Star Trek fighting together. So I kind of just went through and picked out references to every generation of both series, really tried to squeeze in as many little secrets, all the ships, all the backgrounds, and the two ships, the Enterprise and the Millennium Falcon, blasting off together, warp speed, light speed, that final message of unity, of togetherness. Throughout this entire process, I did my homework, hopefully, and I really fell in love with these creators because, as any filmmaker knows, you put so much of yourself into your films, and I can really feel that with Star Wars and Star Trek because they're so passionate. The Force Awakens really was a smash hit, and I was glad to be a part of that phenomenon, even if it's in this small way. In the end, we had over 150 artists with over 150 contributors, which you can see in all those credits there. I could not be more proud and honored that people chose to follow me and follow this passion, this dream. They all deserve so much praise and so much commendation for putting themselves on the line to make sure that this happened. There's no way to ever fully express my gratitude, but hopefully this film will always be a reminder to what we were all able to do together. And I can't wait to do this again. Maybe there'll be a third one someday. So, for the last time, live long, prosper, and may the Force be with you.